Hello, hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Red Pill versus the Blue Pill. My name is Dr. Delon Canterbury, Board Certified Geriatric Pharmacist. Today, I have the distinct honor and pleasure of welcoming Dr. Sara Battar, who is a renowned Board Certified Geriatrician, as well as a Board Certified Hospice and Palliative Care physician who hails with over 28 years of experience from our Veteran Health Administration. So, Sara, welcome to the Red Pill Blue Pill. How are you doing today?
Doing good, thank you. Excited. This is something new for me. So eager to learn and eager to share some of our experiences and actually interact with this audience.
Yes, I
Thanks
love
for
it.
having me.
Man, I am honored to have you. I was just telling you in the studio how much I was fanning girling over you. Like you are such an idol to me in the world of prescribing. So for you to message me on LinkedIn and reach out and support the mission, I was honored. So I appreciate you taking the time and your busy schedule. I know things are crazy, but it is an honor to have you on here today and to share the amazing work you're doing and the lives you're saving and the costs and the patients you're getting back from the VIONE model. So, yes, we're going to dig in today a bit more about Dr. Battar. We're going to talk more about the VIONE E model and where this came from, what's the brainchild behind this, and then explain some of the global impact that you've been able to create with your amazing team of clinicians and using an interdisciplinary multi-site approach to stopping unnecessary harmful med use. So again, welcome. For those who are coming back, you haven't seen me live in a while, but I'm glad to be here for another episode. So, Dr. Sara,
Yes, Dylan.
I love your work. We actually teach the model that you use within our prescribing accelerator. So let's just start with you. What got you into medicine? What specifically got you into geriatric medicine? And let's just talk about the beginning days before we dive on into the fun stuff.
Okay, that's actually fun for me to talk and a little bit nostalgic. So, I'm originally from India and I did my medical school in India. So,
Mhm.
why I became a doctor was I was my dad's unfulfilled dream. He wanted to be a doctor and he couldn't, so he just made sure I took the exams and I got into med school. And it was once I finished med school, it was a point of no return. I enjoyed doing so, taking care of patients and actually learning about medicine.
Mhm.
Then I came to USA, and after I came to USA, um, of course, the degrees that I had in India or the gold medals I had in India, they didn't hold much water. They didn't carry any weight. So, had to kind of develop my humility and
Mhm.
eventually got into medicine residency program. But one of the probably earlier periods in the formative years of training, what attracted me into geriatrics was working with the dialysis patients and working with the elderly patients. Compared to the younger patients, I felt that the elderly needed much more time, much more attention, much more clarification, and also they were very appreciative of the
Mhm.
care that they were receiving. So I think that is when I started thinking, what can I do to actually serve this population?
Mm.
So this was around 1994ish when I was going into geriatrics. Of course, people thought something is wrong with you. Why do you want to go into geriatrics? Are you sure? Couldn't you get into any other field, etc.? But I'm glad I went into that. And one when I just started working, I did my 2-year geriatric fellowship through the VA, and
Mhm.
in those days we have been seeing quite a lot of World War One veterans and World War Two veterans.
Wow.
And another thing that was pretty interesting was that I didn't know the world history. I didn't
Mhm.
know about the chronology of the wars, etc. But so overall, it has been a good journey and it continues to be exciting.
Wow. Okay, that is amazing. It's so crazy to think you're seeing World War One and World War II veterans at that time. Is we sometimes in our own bubbles think, "Oh, that was so far back," but the relevance is here, and they're aging and living longer, right? Because we have better
Yep.
care. So that's so impressive. So you have an extensive history in the VA, because some geriatricians work in the health system. But what brought you to the VA?
Yep. And I have worked in the private sector too, on and off. And each time I worked, I came running back to the VA. I think I probably, in my mind, I felt when we had young kids, VA had a structure and it was more family friendly. But
Mhm.
after that, it just became more of a comfort zone. I knew the VA system, and VA has been kinder and supportive of me. So it's good.
I
But
love.
I do enjoy having the background from India, because the way third world countries practice medicine is more intuitive and intellectual, I feel. We
Mm,
use our hands, minds, and very limited resources.
mhm.
And so it's really good to be more rounded in that sense, to know how to practice from a third world scenario, how to practice from a VA perspective, how to practice from a private
Yeah.
practice perspective, etc. So it's just continues to be an enlightening journey.
Absolutely. And I'm so glad you mentioned that. I don't know if I told you, but my family is from Guyana. So we're South American, we're Caribbean. A lot of Indians are there as well from your country. And so just we have a mix of five different ethnicities, but there's a huge appreciation for our elderly. It's ingrained in our culture. There's a huge reverence and respect. But you're right. It was also and is a third world country or developing third world country. So you didn't have much, and the care wasn't always as expansive. But I love that you share that journey, especially as a son of immigrants who came here and tried to make a way for us. I find it funny that we both got into the world of geriatrics because of that same reference, right?
Yep.
Um, so I love it. I love it. So enough about me and the pleasantries. Let's dig on in. Thank you for sharing that. But yes, you are the brainchild behind VIONE, VIONE. You care to explain a little bit on that?
Sure. So the story behind the story and the humble beginnings were, in 2016, I was at Central Arkansas Veterans Healthcare System. It was a small hospital. It was long-term care facility. I was covering for another physician, attending physician, and while I was covering, we also had students and fellows, residents from UAMS, University of Arkansas for Medical Sciences. So while I was doing the rounds with them and taking their history, listening to their case presentations, not too infrequently the cases, the presentations would start like 80-year-old person who came to the emergency room, was hypoglycemic and got admitted, or 90-year-old had a fall at home, was found to be orthostatic, etc. So
Mhm.
I just got curious to see if there was any correlation between the medications that they were taking, the
Mm,
way they were taking the medications or not taking the medications, and then whatever was the adverse outcome that made them being brought to the emergency department. So initially it was just a curiosity, it was just a pocket notebook in my white coat, and then making notes of so and so patients. And so soon I started to see a pattern that quite a majority of the patients who were getting admitted were coming because of drug related side effects.
mm,
So once I realized there was a pattern, I went to our chief of pharmacy and just asked if he could assist me in giving me a good pharmacist to actually track, because it was more than I could keep notes on.
right.
So our chief of pharmacy was kind enough to give to allow Kim Dickerson, our academic detail pharmacist, to work with me. So we just clicked right away and we started actually tracking the patients and the side effects and the number of medications they were on. And
Mhm,
as we were deprescribing the medications, one of the, again, the stars lined up well. The unit that I was on, It was a subacute rehab 15-bed unit. So the attending with whom I was working, I was covering and then had to hand over. It
Hmm.
was, they were very, the nurse practitioner, the pharmacist, and the doctor over there were early adapters, and they were very, very favorable. They were effective change agents. So when I just said this is what I found and I would like to continue the work that we are doing and we would like to continue tracking, they just kind of came on board without any resistance. And with, so initially we would meet every week on a Wednesday. That
Hmm.
went on for several months, and we were just tracking everything to the point that it just was growing so wild. And another thing that happened at that time was I was the department head, so I could actually expand it. Okay, if this is happening on this unit, I'm sure it's happening on other
Right.
nursing home care wards as well. So we
Hmm.
could expand it to all other four nursing home care units. Then we expanded it to the geriatric primary care clinics and the home
Okay.
based primary care. One by one, we started as creating small ripples which became tidal waves. So that is how. And about 2 years into the program, we actually, not even quite 2 years, our chief of pharmacy put our name in the hat to win the Shark Tank competition. So
Oh.
in 2016, we won the VA's Shark Tank competition. That was really a game changer for us,
Oh.
and it just started exploding the way the Vion was spreading already. And we were selected out of 356 projects. We were among the top 10. And from there, we were among the top 5 who were selected for national diffusion. Then
Wow.
we got Chris Sedgwick, he's our data analytics manager. Once he joined, when we say Vion is a multidisciplinary, multi campus, multi generational small core team of 4 people, this is where each one plays a very significant role. And
Hmm.
like as a concept developer and a physician, my role is kind of really to interact and do the kind of networking and bring teams into the picture. And our academic detail pharmacist helps to implement the project and work with the teams. Our data analytics managers, we have Chris and Ashley, so they help to keep up with the data and make it very user friendly. So it's a small team. And going back to your question, how did I get started? It started very small on a
Yeah.
15-bed unit, and then here we are.
Oh my gosh. I mean, so many gems from that, right? Like just having the will, seeing the problem, acting against it, and then having stakeholders support from the director of pharmacy to have people create this multidisciplinary, interdisciplinary approach is golden. But what I love is that it started with just really you. And then it grew, and you were able to see the alignment and having the right people drive the mission from different angles, from different specialties. I mean,
Sure.
this is powerful, and so I have to just applaud you. One, I didn't know there was a Shark Tank for the VA, so I'm like, whoa, I didn't know that was there. But then to keep building and building and building because of that consistency and tracking the outcomes, which a lot of us clinicians want to know, what's the outcome, what's the impact, what's the data, is phenomenal. And to have that system support, not any pushback, or we don't have the time or labor for that, is golden. So wow,
Yes.
wow, it's a lot to say. And this was in what, 6, 7 years time.
Mm-hmm.
We're seeing the end result of something you put into place 6 years ago, and now you've amassed over $130 million in cost avoidance and savings just within the VA alone, over 100 and something sites nationally, and now about to be internationally. So I mean, let's be honest. Let's keep going. You just shared some amazing news. You presented this work that you're doing in your amazing team at the last November's International Healthcare Federation in Dubai. Tell us about that. Tell us about what happened.
So the things that led towards actually that was, once Vion won the Shark Tank, it was a good name brand. And really people started paying attention because we won the Shark Tank competition. They thought, okay, it's not a mom and pop store, something that started as a garage band, but no, we just kind of started building on that. And
Mhm.
having been with the VA for a while,
Yeah.
and being able to navigate through the systems, through up and down the totem pole,
Mhm.
working down the fields where rubber meets the road to the higher ups in the VA headquarters, who actually are the stakeholders, key players who could actually say, okay, keep going on, or no, stop doing it. Really able to navigate through that. And another thing that a lesson, a powerful lesson learned, and also some an inspirational thought, and a kind of a comes from cumulative wisdom after 6 7 years of the project, is if we are doing something right, there will be some who will be your cheerleaders, there will be some who will be neutral, and there will be some who say this is not going to fly, maybe you will shine for a day. And then, so learning to having that discipline, where do I pay attention, who
Mhm.
do I associate with, who
Mhm.
do I distance with, that comes with life and maturity.
Mhm.
And like they say, win without boasting and lose without excuses.
There we
So
go.
when we had good moments, it was we celebrated in our own way. And when there were rejections or criticisms, we would just take it in the stride and kind of say, just okay, carry that thought with you, but let that not stop you. So we submitted Vion for quite a number of awards, but we were very very selective in kind of choosing where we want to put our name into that.
Okay.
And some of our aha moments were like, we won the Gates for Government Award. That
Oh.
is a big deal in the VA sector.
Hmm.
So the Gates for Government Award is, are you using the data, are you actually influencing the masses, and are you shaping the future, are you utilizing the resources appropriately? So those are the three Gates that. So, and we also got a presidential nomination for the Vion project. So at that
Wow.
time we knew we had something big, and we were very pleased. And after that, another significant thing was the implementation scientists started calling us and asking us questions about how are you able to actually implement it, and how are you able to sustain it. So again, these are, each thing counts, maybe not by itself in all, but when we were getting that kind of feedback, and in 2019 we were published in the Federal Practitioner Journal. So that is in the, for the federal government, it is a big deal to get published in that magazine. That was really a turning point, because the concept of high reliability organizations was in vogue. And then it was really, I built a crosswalk between our Vion project and the high reliability organizations.
Mm.
So that helped to get a buy-in from the non-clinical leaders as well. And after that, we won, it is called a National Hero Award, or the High Reliability Organization Award. That was in
Mm.
2022.
Wow.
By this time I had enough confidence built that Vion, I think, is something different. It kind of it's worth showcasing, etc. And we joined a global alliance in May of 2021,
Hmm.
and we were asked actually to submit it to the World Health Congress. So one thing led to the other, and because of the confidence already building up,
Hmm.
because of its proven potential, at least I had the confidence to sit down and actually submit it for the World Health Congress Award. It was a long shot, but I thought, at least, like, what's the harm if they reject it? They usually they give some reasons why it didn't qualify, and we can qualify for next year. But
Right.
the application process is quite rigorous, and it was a very steep learning curve to learn the difference between just writing up for an award, locally or nationally versus internationally,
Mhm.
even to submit the application, you had to show that you have a national impact, that
Wow.
it is beyond your facility, that you do have some international impact as well,
Mhm.
that
Mhm.
the results are validated, and they require very strong references. Basically, the way the questions are asked, you have to know your work. There is no way you can cook up your answers or borrow
Yeah.
somebody's work and
Yeah.
showcase it as your own. So that was almost took 3 weeks of my life to just sit there through that. And the application had to be put in one sitting. You cannot take breaks in between. So
Oh, man, one of those.
it's, yeah.
Yikes. Oh,
So it was a waiting, about 3 months waiting period. And finally, when one day I was moving from Houston to Florida, and one day just got the email and it said, congratulations, so you got the gold award. And that was really a pinch me moment.
man.
It was,
Wow. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, that's more than just 3 weeks. That was like 7 years of work, data,
Yes,
time,
yes,
mining, wording. Oh my gosh. And I'm so glad you did, because you are now making international waves in the deprescribing movement. And you even mentioned that now other countries are
yes.
adopting this. Can you shed light on that?
Sure. So, one of the things, the advantages we have with the VA is we have the corporate data warehouse. The data we could pull is little bit much more easy. And again, we are blessed with our data analytics managers, etc.
Mhm.
But the other countries who very commonly asked question is, what if we do not have a system like the VA? How can we do it? So
Right.
we would just say, just use the vion format. Doesn't matter what we are which whether you can keep the data in your own way, you can customize it. But quite a lot of my colleagues in India are using the, and even my other colleagues in the private sectors from different disciplines and rural areas, urban areas, they just keep the VIONE. Some of my presentation, they
Uh,
say they stick it by their computer. We got inquiries from Korea, Japan, Taiwan. So all those folks there are, and then there are some other languages I cannot identify when I try to actually look up what other countries are using it. And
right.
then have some friends in Australia who are using it. But it did gain a lot of attention when it was presented in Dubai. A lot of folks kind of said. And another part of deprescribing that I would like to engage our audience and again inspire everybody to join hands and be force multipliers is, when we speak about deprescribing, it's not just stopping a medicine first to understand what exactly is deprescribing.
Mhm.
Whether we are cutting down a medicine, whether we are cutting down the dose, making a scheduled medicine a PRN medication,
Right.
substituting a proton pump inhibitor for a H2 blocker, or
Mhm.
just things like that, and then changing a BID dose to a QD dose. All these things come under deprescribing. I think that is something that awareness has to be promoted a lot.
Right.
Uh,
Right. And
yeah,
I'm so glad you said that. I mean, in my world, I want it to be as broad as possible when we use the word deprescribing. And to me, it starts with a communication, with a trusted messenger, right? You want someone who understands, the med list, of course. You want people who have that, but you want to have a dialogue. Most people
exactly,
don't even know they can get off of their meds or can
exactly,
safely
exactly.
deprescribe or taper some of these meds off. And so I see a lot of power and having caregivers just ask the right questions, like how many meds are too many? Like what is polypharmacy? That my mom's on 15 meds. And the numbers show us if you increase that by 5, 10, 15, 20, your increases of falls will happen, right? Medication errors, drug interactions, you name it. You've seen the numbers yourself.
Hmm.
So to me, deprescribing is a spectrum. Yes, there's a great, one-on-one, we got some meds off. That's awesome. But if you're not even having a trusted person empower a patient to ask those questions, it's likely not going to happen in traditional settings. And that's
Sure.
why we need to educate the clinicians, as well as the families, as well as the patient, as well as the caregiver, and the entire care team. If you're touching these seniors, and I mean, look at it. For example, OT and PT, they see those med lists. They're
Mm-hmm.
wondering why their patients are keep on falling, and yet their strength isn't getting back. I mean, they all play a role. So that's why deprescribing has to be interdisciplinary, and it has to require stakeholders that support a culture for safe practices. So,
Sure,
so glad
sure.
you mentioned that. It's such a hard point that I like to bring home with my cohort as well. But when I touch patients, when I go to these communities, when I go to these conferences and see the same problem, it's really like, why am I on all these meds? Can I get off anything safely? And asking your provider to just have a dialogue, not an attack, but just a dialogue around the meds. So thank you for that.
Sure. And again, another simple way to look at prescribing and deprescribing is like two sides of a coin.
Mm, mm-hmm,
We need somebody to follow good prescribing practices. We also need them to have good deprescribing practices. And sometimes deprescribing might have a negative connotation. So we are actually using the word medication optimization more.
sure,
And also, apart from prescribing, medical providers and pharmacists, another discipline which comes into the picture is nursing.
absolutely.
So they usually come and says, the patient says he doesn't take this medicine, it makes him
Mhm,
feel more sick, and he doesn't want to take it, he repeatedly
mhm,
refuses it. So uh, we just need to listen and again lean on one another. And uh, I am ready to take some questions or go through some of the slides, whatever
sure.
is a good way to utilize
Yeah,
our time together.
yeah, we'll definitely get into that. And I'm so glad again you mentioned nurses. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
our first cohort was primarily nurses with RD prescribing accelerator. Some were visiting angels, some actually have their own caregiver nonprofit. And I don't want to underestimate what they see. And they are the ones who catch those red flags, right? The
Yes,
side effects,
yes.
the falls, or the non-compliance, if there is any. They are the ones that can be that basically totem pole for the prescribing provider to make action. And that's why, again, your approach is getting rid of the egos. We can't
Yes,
have egos in medicine.
flattening the hierarchy. Yep. Uh,
Exactly. I
yeah.
love that actually, flattening the hierarchy. So
Yeah.
that's what we got to start doing and get out of this silo of, oh, I'm this, I'm this. I can't do that. Whereas when we do it together, it works. And you've shown that the data supports that.
Sure. Another element is the emergency department too. When they see patients come, and we are working very actively with the EDs to say if a patient is coming to the ED with a drug related side effect, how to take some action, how to alert the primary care provider and
Mm.
bring it to our attention. So,
Mm, I love that. And before you start, I do want to mention we have Miss Linda who mentioned that she is a 25-year hospice pharmacist. She loves taking people off of meds as well. She also mentioned it seems in her area that a lot of the hospitals, unfortunately, are keeping patients on aggressive medications. For instance, some are statins, and it may not even be appropriate, right? Especially when that end of life conversation may not be necessary.
sure. Yes.
Brandon also chimed in saying, we're so glad we're having this conversation. Amazing, he said. And Linda congratulated you on your amazing award with
Thank you.
the
Thank you.
Health Federation. So, yes, I'll let you go ahead and take the reins.
Sure. So, this is the Hero Award and the Shark Tank competition that we won. I
Hmm,
want to spend a few seconds on the logo itself. Another thing, when we are doing good work, I like a saying which says a peacock that doesn't show its feathers is not much different from a turkey. So if you are a peacock, show your feathers, and kind of if you are confident, do something. And again, how you project yourself counts.
hmm, hmm,
We came up with this logo for VIONE, the diffusion of excellence gold status practice. The outer circle was given to us,
hmm,
but they allowed us to co-create actually the logo. Where you see the banner VIONE and a line, The above is how there is a cluster of medications. The red one is a vital and the white one is a important. So once you actually deprescribe effectively, the only the vital and important medications stay and the rest of the clutter goes away. So
Oh,
that is what the VIONE logo is. And this is our team. We work for the VA, as some of you might already be familiar with. VHA is USA's largest integrated healthcare delivery system. We have about 171 medical centers.
mhm.
So far, VION has been implemented in various capacities in about 125 facilities. So we are
Wow.
very pleased with the way that it is going. And the numbers that you see, this is only just one or two programs in each of these 125 facilities, but just imagine the impact if only the entire facilities actually implement that. And in terms of VION, what's happening is we all agree there are too many prescription practices, and we do know some of them actually cause more harm, and there is no universal consensus on polypharmacy definition. There is no
Mhm,
globally practiced methodology.
mhm.
And so even if you come up with something, it's not sustainable, is it portable, etc. So one of the answers that we think is like Vion offers a solution. It's innovative, it's very simple, it meets all this. Yes, it's sustainable, it's
Right.
portable, and then it can be used in any format that you use. Another beauty of Vion is it can be used in any clinical location across the entire spectrum of care,
Okay.
and can be used across the world. I think this was a winning point for us to win the award. So in terms of the key players, the core group is I'm the concept developer, and then we have information analyst Chris and Ashley, and we have Kim as our implementation lead.
Mm,
And overall, the purpose of Vion is yes to reduce the polypharmacy risk, to improve patient safety, etc., and to create an enterprise-wide culture of greater accountability and reliability. The more medications we give, the more errors we will have, the more
mhm.
patient harm it will cause.
Right.
And it's not just lighting a small candle that flickers for a little bit and goes away and there's no memory of it. No,
Mm,
we don't want to do that. We would like to facilitate organizational transformation and create a culture of safety and also cost effective care. Just imagine, with the costs saved, you can hire more staff, you can do more quality of life initiatives. So
right.
it's not a bad thing to save some money.
Right. Exactly.
Now that you have been hearing Vion for quite a few times, it is basically an acronym. It uses 5 filters, and as I mentioned, it can be used in any clinical setting across a continuum of care. And V stands for medications that are life saving. Insulin for a diabetic, blood pressure medications,
Mhm.
heart medications for somebody in CHF or arrhythmias. So those are vital. We cannot afford to run out of them.
Right.
And I is important, improves quality of life, though might not be life saving. These are like something for a dry skin, something for constipation, pain. Those are, so the V and I have to stay, and patients should not run out. We should be mindful of those. Now starting with optional is we start leaning towards deprescribing. Does it make a difference? There are some medicines that we prescribe and patients take that we are not convinced it is an absolute must that they need to take. We just continue just for the sake of continuing.
Mhm.
So whether those are vitamin pills or supplements, etc., and then not indicated is again using strong broad spectrum antibiotics for, there's no proof of infection, you are giving empirical therapy, or somebody is repeatedly hypoglycemic, falling hypotensive, but still you are not touching the doses of their hypertensive medications or their diabetic medications, etc. Those are not indicated. They cause more harm sometimes than help the patient.
Right.
And do we have a reason why somebody is taking this medication? So
Mm.
in a nutshell, Vion is a deprescribing methodology that uses all these 5 filters, And this is our impact as of midnight yesterday. So we are in 122 facilities, and as a legend says over here, the gold stars are the facilities which have impacted over 10,000 veterans,
Hmm,
and we about 14,000 providers are using it so far across the nation,
okay.
and about 600,000 unique veterans are impacted in 122 facilities, and we have stopped over 1.4 million unique prescriptions, and then with a cost savings, this is a very conservative estimate of 136 million annualized estimated cost avoidance. So
My gosh.
yeah.
Imagine that. I mean, that's phenomenal. I mean, to see that reach in just 6, 7 years is pretty robust. I mean, so I'm really foreseeing more cost savings, of course, as this continues to scale. But this is just with the VA. So
Yeah,
imagine if we have an army of deprescribing nurses, deprescribing pharmacists, deprescribing social workers, all doing this in a more expansive role within their
sure,
little silos. It could start at a home health agency. It could start at a nursing home. It could start at an adult daycare center. We
sure.
don't have to keep it to just a health system. And that's
Yes.
why I believe in this so firmly. And so this is amazing.
Sure. When we join hands between the VA and private sectors, one of my dreams and aspirations is create a color coded Vion kind of imprint over here, whether
Mhm.
it is red, green, blue, yellow, orange, whatever, and say, okay, red is vital, don't run out of that.
Mhm.
Orange is important, it's not life saving, but for your call. So keep this, and then here have a talk with your pharmacist and the doctor for this, and give those to the patients and families so that they can go to their own medicine cabinets and
Mhm.
separate out, organize it in such a way, I
Yeah.
cannot, these are my vital and important, this is what I need to talk to my provider about, doing something with it, etc. So hopefully that dream will come true.
Oh, it will. That's the entire mission of the deprescribing movement that you are helping to lead, as well as my mission with the deprescribing accelerator is happening. We're making it happen in our own worlds. We just got to keep growing and scaling and being consistent. So, man, this
Thank
is phenomenal.
Thank you, thank you. The best is yet to be. So, this is a list of some of the awards that we have won. That's the wind beneath our wings. And each time we gather some more awards, our confidence goes up and our credibility goes up. And we
Mhm.
have more folks coming forward to say, how can I be part of your team?
Mhm.
So, uh, and this was my message to you, Dylan. Really, I was so tickled when you responded to my kind of saying hello to you. And some points for deprescribing, I think this is where we resonate with one another, is the common goals for deprescribing, including reducing overall medication burden, the geriatric syndromes, and improving global health outcomes. And all these are so important, and especially even death can be prevented if we utilize it properly. So I'm
Yes.
so glad that we are talking on this platform. Few
Mhm.
things also, Dylan, you asked me to share my personal journey and my perspectives, etc.
Yeah.
One of the things that I feel helped with our Vion's current status is we hold ourselves accountable. The data integrity and the granularity is very transparent, very reliable.
Mhm.
And also, when we win, we do share the credit with, and we do take some time to focus on rewards and recognition, and to identify, acknowledge the high achievers.
Mhm. Mhm.
Some things, I think this is just my personal opinion, what worked for us is the tenacity, the courage and the resilience. As I mentioned, like there will be some downtimes, there will be some ego deflating moments, and it is okay. As humans, we are made of flesh and blood, we will react, we have
Mhm.
sentiments, but then we just have to learn not to stay down too long, but just bounce back and say, okay, it's a new day, let's start again.
Mhm.
And the hard work and discipline and believe in the kindness of the universe, I feel us coming together on this platform itself, again, the universe is conspiring to help us, to make us all realize um, our dreams, our aspirations.
Yeah.
And this is the saying that I said, it's if you we think we have something good going, let us kind of showcase our work.
Mm.
And it is, we will face some rejections, it is okay, but I think what helped us was not to be quitters and realize the value of teamwork. Without followership, Vion wouldn't be where it is now. So we are very, very grateful for all the formal and informal influences who are really helping us stay afloat. And so we do have good networking capability also. Learning to hide scars and bruises well and be possibility thinker.
Mhm. Mhm.
So it is important that and these are some of the pinch me moments. I'm just sharing the Vion experience, and please feel free to redirect me, Dylan. I thought this might be what is more relevant, kind of to say, to share the
Yeah,
broad,
share it all. Share it
broad
all. Let's keep
strokes.
going.
So some of the pinch me moments were when we won the Shark Tank winner, it was a surprise. It was really like, for the way the Shark Tank works, you just submit it out there. That year there were 356 submissions.
Mhm.
First they select the top 200. We were very happy to be among the top 200. Then they selected the top 100. We thought this is as far as we will go, and we were happy with that. Then we made it to the top 20, to the top 10, and so here we are. But that was a pinch me moment.
Yeah.
And these awards, and we had to give a VA TED talk, which was really a turning point in my life. It really, I used to think I was a good presenter, I don't need any training, but they train you a lot to do a TED talk, and the audience was awesome. So that was something. And all these are again things that helped us. The latest thing is again joining hands with you. Another thing that again I feel very good about is Vion has been mentioned on par with beer's stop and start criteria. But
Mhm.
as we most of us know what beers and stop and start are, but Vion does not have any specific funding. We didn't write for any grants. We didn't receive any grants.
Right.
There is no research team. We do not have any mandate, and nobody is breathing on our neck to say, so what? When are you delivering? Your deadline is coming up. So, and we do have many support systems and cheerleaders to keep going. And this is another thing that tickled me. In 2021, there was an article which said the top three topics in 2021 were COVID, deprescribing, that is Vion, and age friendly. I was pretty tickled to read that article to
Yeah.
say, wow, we were among the top three presentations at American Geriatric Society. So I was, and this was another thing at the World Health Congress to be in the company of the other gold winners for different categories from different countries. That was an elite company, but even now it just feels like a dream.
Wow. And it
And,
is complete.
and this is a timeline of the awards that Vion has been accumulating over time. So
Mhm.
started with just winning the Shark Tank competition over there, and so
I
um,
love it. I love it. Congrats. I mean, geez, I just gotta give another round of applause. Everyone, show some love, please, to Dr. Battar and her wonderful team. And honestly, the number of lives saved from this. I remember looking up, of course, some of your past videos and talks, and I remember you referencing a patient, called Mark, and you ended up making this interesting call to his wife. So I would love for you to share a little bit on that personal anecdote in your deprescribing journey.
here
Oh,
comes Mark.
yeah.
I read your mind, or you read my mind.
You were just ready for it. Okay.
So, Mark was one of our veterans in a long term dementia care unit, and his wife was a very loving person, but she was just burnt out. And one day she just came and dropped him and said, he just sits in the chair, doesn't do anything. I have to cook for him, I have to clean him, and he cannot even have a conversation with him. So I'm done. VA, you take care of him. And she just left. So fast forward, in the first 3 months, we just kind of observed him and then started peeling off his medications. We stopped his tramadol, we stopped his Xanax, we stopped his Ativan one
Mm,
by one. And then as we were doing it very carefully and working very closely with the pharmacist and the nursing team, finally he started waking up. And then when we were his wife said he used to love Beatles music, so we just gave him a mini iPod, and then he started listening to those songs and he started singing along with those songs.
mm,
And when he was waking up, he started asking for a comb. He wanted to look good, and then he asked for his own clothes. And here you see our physical therapy assistant, restorative care technician. Actually, he came and he started making him walk.
mhm,
And I actually took consent of his wife and sent her a picture of this. First I told her over the phone, I want to send a picture of Mark standing. And so she was saying, I think you are mistaken, Mark doesn't stand. I said, no, he stood up, and I'm
mm,
sending you a picture. And so I couldn't send it over the phone, I had to mail her a copy. And this was, she wrote a beautiful handwritten letter. She said, I forgot he was 6 feet tall. I don't remember the last time I saw him standing.
wow.
And then she just said, I have his picture on my fridge and I talk to him every day. He's still my baby. So that was a very beautiful experience. That was really seeing a miracle unfold.
Mm. Powerful, 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 powerful. I love it. I love to hear it. And those are the type of wins that we have to keep sharing, right? Because you
Sure.
remind with all this negative stuff every day, but to see this type of win from an impact like this is why we got into the profession, right? It's why I created my business. It's why I'm tired of seeing over medicated seniors when I was working at Walgreens as a pharmacy manager. It was what I saw, and to see the other end of it, like to see someone bounce back and not be another statistic, is just
Yep.
heartwarming. So,
Exactly. So well said.
so I'm curious. I'm going to go ahead and remove the slides for now, but
Okay.
in our last couple of minutes, I'd love to kind of just ask you what kind of advice would you want to impart to our future, our honestly our future prescribers, but to people who are in the community, right? We kind of see things from the clinical health system. What can we do in our communities? How can we empower our caregivers and even, some of our community pharmacists or nurses who may be in their current role to make this a part of their day to day?
So there are many things we can do, small and big, and we can time it and we can calibrate it in a way that it works for both the professionals as well as the patients and families.
Hmm.
I think the old when we were in training we used to do it. I think that that practice has gone out the window, but it's still a good idea if first of all to tell the patients or families that remember the brown bag, the pill bag, that bring all the medications that you're taking
Hmm.
in a brown bag, and then they would just bring it. And then we have to be more proactive, we have to be more conscientious.
Oh yeah.
And we can do it ourselves, we just cannot expect somebody else to do it. This is where having an idea goes only so far.
Mm,
What is your measure of success? First of all, the simple things like what's your goal. Like they say, goal, it does not have to be 6 sentences and master's level English. It could be, I want to make sure that all the medications that the patient is taking are
mhm.
going to help him, make medications work for them and not against them. That
Right.
is the simple mantra that we can go with. And take the time to actually talk to the patients. And not everything has to be done by a pharmacist or a physician or an APR. And so
Nope.
have built in other systems, somebody to, when they make an appointment, to say, please bring all your medicines, and please be prepared to talk if you want to discuss any medications with your pharmacist or your doctor.
Our
Those are some.
seniors are
Yeah.
only 14% of our population, but they consume a third of all prescriptions in the US.
Wow.
And it's projected to be maybe 33% of our population by 2040, and they're going to consume almost half of all prescriptions. And that doesn't even include OTCs. They already consume about a third of all OTCs. So we gotta have a comprehensive medication list: herbals, vitamins, shampoos, medicated lotions, whatever. We got to know everything to get the best way of figuring out, is it truly aligning with what I think you were mentioning, the 4M model, using that age-friendly communication. What matters most to the patient? Are we preserving mentation? Are we preserving mobility? And the other one I'm drawing a blank on. But
Medications, yeah.
food
So
and
yeah,
medications, which is
yeah,
inherent to my life. So it's like I always assume
sure.
that. So honestly, that's the piece here is, and what I'm hearing from you is listening.
Yes.
Just listen.
Yes, and
Listen to what's
invest in the patients, and kind of go with confidence, know that we can make a difference together. And I think that goals of care discussions, again, they do not have to be exotic discussions, they don't have to be fancy discussions.
yeah.
Have a very colloquial format to say, are you sure about all the medications you are taking? Do you have any questions? And so if they just nod their heads, just go through them one by one. Let's see, okay, if I you think I can stop one medicine for you, what would that be? Or is there any medicine that you are not taking, you would rather not take? So having those conversations and
I love it.
creating those success stories, kind of to say, because we need some stories to say, help us keep going, some success stories.
Absolutely. I mean, there's an Australian study that even shows that about 90% of patients, if their doctor says you can stop something, they will agree with it and they will
Yep.
readily do so. Not to mention, about 90% of meds can be stopped safely without a harm or side effect. We don't have enough data for that. But I'm curious, for these budding future, prescribers, what are some ways we can incorporate deprescribing into the education system, into medical school, pre-med, pharmacy school, social work? What is something we can do as a next step so that it's not just a siloed effort, but we come out thinking this?
uh, I think expanding our sphere of influence, expanding our comfort zone. We are very comfortable in our own cocoons, but to think, okay, let me take one step beyond, let me be the change that I want to see, and
Mm,
say, okay, if we want to really deprescribe, what is it that I can do? And speaking about medical students and academics, etc., if you are in a program, if you have some connections, just talk with whoever sets the syllabus for the students and for the trainees, to say, hey, while you are teaching that, can you just also plant some seeds very early in their career, to say that
mm,
deprescribing is a thing, medication optimization is a thing,
mm.
that medications can also cause harm, they are not always, and once started, medications don't have to be continued indefinitely. Those simple nuggets go a long way.
So much, so much. And just for my own personal edification, what are some commonly seen prescribing cascades you may encounter? Like, what are some ones that kind of is like, aha, I always see this one, this amlodipine and diuretic combo, right? There's something that
Yes.
kind of flags you. Is there anything that kind of jumps out?
That is very common. The calcium channel blockers, the
Yeah,
constipation, and then
yep,
the medications to treat the constipation.
right.
The Parkinson's medications. Recently, we had a patient who was started on ropinirole, which is dopaminergic, and then he started having real bad hallucinations. Then another medication was started to treat the hallucinations, and then next thing, he was just rambling and getting out of the bed, and had to be a very strong patient advocate and really have the courage to
Mhm.
and integrity to fight, almost literally fight with the neurologist, to say, I'm the primary, I'm going to cut down on this medication because the brother said the minute you started him on this medication, he became more goofy in
Mhm,
his own words. So sometimes we just need to take the bull by the horn and kind
mhm.
of you be the difference maker. Don't just wait for the world to do
Right.
take some action for you. That would be my thing to say.
I love
If
it.
you can do something, do it. But just I mean, yes, some are leaders, some are followers, but
Sure.
at least like we need both of them. We without followers there are no leaders, and without leaders followers have a hard time. So whatever the roles that we are playing, let us do a good job out of it,
Love.
and be the driver, try to kind of be the difference maker, be an effective change
Okay.
agent, and know that help is available, that there are many eager people to kind of join the bandwagon and kind of say, okay, let's do it together.
Ah, I love it, and I'm so glad you mentioned the Mahatma Gandhi quote, which is literally why I created my business: "Be the change you want to see in the world." And I'm so tired of us using the excuses of "I don't have the time," "I see the issue," or "I'm afraid of what the doctor will say." Pharmacists like to say that. Get out of your own heads and embrace what you were called to do. This is our passion. This is our joy. We don't want people on meds. Nurses don't want people on meds. They got labor and time. They got other stuff to do. They got Q6s, Q1s, whatever. Stop the nonsense. Stop the nonsense and advocate, and don't feel afraid of the repercussion. And that's why we're here. So I'm so glad you mentioned that, just taking the bull by the horns approach, because I think we need to hear, as you being a geriatrician, a doctor, that it can take a team, it can take a village, not just these silos. And that's something that I want us to take away, is that deprescribing starts from the community to the health system to the patient to the insurer. It all plays a role. And I just, again, I'm so glad you've been able to share your journey with us today, Dr. Battar. And for those who may not know, again, as a part of our Deprescribing Accelerator, we are going to have special guests like this who have a more intimate conversation with our cohort members, our alumni, our Deprescribing advocates in house. So if you're interested, we do have another cohort starting in the summer. Go on ahead and check out our homepage if you want to apply to get more of amazing people like Dr. Battar. But Dr. Battar, do you have any final words, any final comments before we close today?
The best is yet to be.
That's right. Is right. That is right. The bet is
Yes.
B. So again, thank you all for another tuning in, just for another episode of the Red Pill versus the Blue Pill, where we discuss, we have to unleash the power of deprescribing. Choose the red pill. Join our community. In fact, reach out to Dr. Battar. Dr. Battar, the VA VIONE, all this stuff is readily available online. And so you can check out some links which we'll share so you can get your own VIONE toolkit. There's a VIONE risk scorecard assessment. All this stuff is readily available. You can email VA VIONE, I
At
believe,
va.gov.
at va.gov. Thank you,
Mhm.
to get that info yourself. So again, this is for everyone's benefit. So thank you all, Dr. Patar, from my deepest of hearts and from my role model. I appreciate you so much. So thank
Thank you,
you guys
Dylan.
for tuning in, and we'll see you next week for another Red Pill Blue Pill at 12 next Thursday. Take care.
Thank you, everyone. It was
Thank
fun.
you. All right.
Bye.
Bye.